Welcome back, dudes. Exciting news. Anyone missing shallogram discussions? We're back at it. Starting here. Okay. So, this one we can see the internal ammonite that spirals out. Like, this portion spirals around and has a boundary here, the hard boundary there. So it's got an internal ammonite that abuts this segment here. And then this segment is counter to this huge segment. Very anomalous if this is supposedly a fossil. Why is this so imbalanced? Like, this makes sense for current flows that don't have as much space over here as they do over here. Like, this is very centered in the rock also, in terms of like centered. Crack up here, round at the 1/3. This one's at the bottom. It even wraps around the bottom. Like it's at the bottom here, but it's also wrapping around the bottom. Maybe it's sooner than the bottom here. It's, in my perception, this goes down and back up continuously and has this fracture down the middle, similar to this one that eroded down through the layer at the base, and it did so in a rounded way around this segment because it was at the base, 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 at the base. The bottom isn't like a straight line because this structure is not a straight line, so the bottom wraps around with it, and so it went through there. That whole stretch probably came around and back in this way and was only able to get in so far in terms of etching. Creating that weird structure there. Also, it looks like there's some sort of dendritic stuff like extending beyond the shell, like out here. A little anomalous, like smeared almost. Like the shell of the ammonite was smeared over this way, which doesn't really make any sense. Same ammonite. These are nice and uniform. This is anomalous. Like, it's very much in line with that, although this is not. This is relatively in line with that. It's staggered, though. Maybe because the top is sort of rounded, like some of the current wrapping around the top generally, and that like this didn't influence as much, but over here it got influenced to go down. These two didn't get influenced as much as this region. Maybe. Very elongated over there. I guess this side is here. This up here is over here, I guess. So this really goes over this way. And then comes back over there. On top, this side wraps around the top and comes back here. It's also the edge of the rock, like the top and bottom of this thing is very much at the edge. Not an accident. Whatever's going on in there is pretty much like a mass, but not so dendritically formed. Like this, we can kind of see a dendrite in it, one of these things. Like kind of, with little extensions out this way. A couple like abutting the shell, but this thing is not fully formed, so it looks abnormal, like a tumor, or like a trilobite eye, maybe. Not to associate the two. And then the video of it. So here we can see over on this side some interesting things also. Like the way the color of the rock is in like ripples. Relating to this boundary, and something over here. So like three rows of this lighter color. This one even has like a little segment that's pretty related to like this, it seems, maybe. And then this one having a segment here with this little path out of it even. And then over here, maybe something relating to that even, and maybe this going over to that. Let's see if we can find the... Go back to this. It's hard to see in the reflection there. This kind of see it pretty good. This like comes up and into this region above it in a little weird, a bit weird, I'd say. Tapping into it like a terminal. Tapping in. Probably actually coming from there, but the connection not being severed. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one, just a more typical one here. I thought maybe it looked like a ammonite though. Right there. Like two chakras across this way with the, we can really see it here with the steps. At least a step there. Narrowing. That's a typical ammonite shape. Like say this one. I feel like that's going on there. And then a smaller one over here with the chakras across that way. Which is an exit point, like current going around here is exiting along these channels, creating the teeth, exiting along here. But it also exited here, and for some reason produced an ammonite shape there that maybe it points over this way. Maybe relates to something, I don't know why exactly, but like a brace point where current flowing generally this way, like ran into this, it's protruded into here and like put a resistance so that it wouldn't keep flowing. Like it could have maybe gone over here, but it didn't. Like it got caught on that groove, like set and choosing a gear in a manual car kind of thing. And as a result, the pressure flowing through and then the current actually physically exiting here interacted tangentially, maybe. Also up here is a little anomalous. You can see a subtle ammonite lobe there. Okay, so those were from Rudraksh Guru and Mangalam Jewelry, I think. Then I got a bunch of ammonite images from Amazon again. I was looking around. This one's from eBay. Parole 98. So there's some teeth in there, presumably the same process that created the teeth type structures. Here, doing this as well. A little bit anomalous over here, like this goes this way, and then this goes this way off of it. It's hard to say. I don't think there's very good image there. Some chakras. Interestingly, this is like shooting off the wave. Like if we go to these images where there is like a corkscrew, that's a good one, like these that then have waves. This one doesn't have it, but like this. Like it's coming off of a certain region, not the whole stretch. Off the top here, off like 1-2 rotations up. This one looks like it's coming off here and here, as well as probably out of there, here and here. Something like maybe losing the capacity to press against and like slipping, like past the chakra is pressing into the chakra and just slips past it and like coiled in some weird way here. Maybe because it should have an inner one here and an upper one here, but it's based on the rest of it, and then an upper one here that wraps around to the bottom. Another one here that's hard to tell what's going on in there. Looks like a nucleus. Another one here coming off that way. Another one here coming off there. Coming off the top-ish. Off the top and then off a lower layer. Interesting. And then this one is off the same layer as this one. These two are off the same like rotation, where this one's off the previous rotation, or the more inner rotation. Again, kind of see a third rotation there, but I guess it's common for it to come off of like the second one below, between the second and third, where there's kind of a third one here. But okay, so that kind of thing we see going on there. Also this, the teeth go this way, and then this bend goes this way. It's not in a straight line. This is not in line with this. It's shifted upward and like this way, which seemingly wraps around maybe to the chakras, like from, I guess from the chakra here, but really in a way like bending at a different point. The bend point being more like here, which is also related maybe to why those teeth are there for some reason. There's a different angle of this. You can see that it's sideways, but it's hard to say if that's anything too anomalous. It looks like maybe some teeth coming off this way that are not fully etched into the stone. This one's also from Parole 98. Another one with like this slant, where the chakra is right along the slant at the boundary. Like some others we talked about recently. It's got this thing suggestive this is like the top and this is the bottom. Down here, also something going on over there. Off the edge of this thing going on. This also more centered there. This one more like a third. Not quite a third, but different one, also slanted. This is from KRE on Amazon.india.in. So this is a little odd shape there. Like, it's not really cohesive. It bends this way. Probably because of the structure of the rock, although this side formed pretty well. Other side. This one's interesting. Chakras. Above the chakra, we see that. We also see another ammonite type shape here, right here. That thing, with little nooks along the way, even. And then this, interesting, this, from its center almost, is this other mound. It doesn't actually symmetrically wrap around it. It's like staggered, kind of like the trilobite spine in that other one we're talking about. That's like a half step off, so that it's in line but also staggered, where it's like not in line with it. It's not here, it's here, but it's still in line with like details of the rock. This is the top. So the top of it has this ammonite type thing going on, which is a little odd. Like, it probably doesn't have a cohesive entire structure. It's almost like ammonite along one plane, and then just like a thing on the top that partially formed a structure. I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm not sure also if we have enough images to really get a good idea of what's going on there. Also, this at far end, there's this protrusion out this way, and it bends up, which may be because there's like a current that wraps around it, like here, at generally there, that's like pushing up, which is why this went upward more. This is more center of the rock, like actually center of the rock. So maybe it had some sort of belt current that when current flowed out from the tip here, it didn't just go straight. It got kind of pushed up towards upward, but not so far up. It got pushed up towards like the equivalent of the side over here, and then it stabilized there somewhat, although it looks like it might go up still. And possibly another current coming in this way that was like cuts across, wraps behind the rock, and wraps around generally here, was caused because of this to also have a current go up this way and feed into this one. It looks like there's a flow up this way, which really pretty much goes through like this corner of where this bend is. It goes up through there to exactly this corner. And then looks like there's a coloration along that length that is similar to this. That's relatively parallel also, these things. These like slices across it. This one maybe points like at right here, at this layer of the chakra. Where this one, the center is really like where the crack stops, and then it points though over to like the boundary of the chakra, where this one points maybe over to this boundary. Again, not random, like it's too time erosion coincidency to explain this by anything fossilization wise other than just invoking coincidence constantly. Also subtly see it trying to drain down through there, like going around here and maybe forming a mound generally here. So maybe this also relates to like an equivalent flow that was large going around like the other one before this. This one, or this one, like this one. I was forming a structure like this. Just not cohesively in a way where it's distinguishable throughout the entire structure. We just see it like in part, right here, kind of by this and by this. So maybe like right from here downward, like it generally goes down and creates a boundary that just didn't get formed completely. There does seem to be some coloration difference where this is darker and more completely dark than over here. Looks like the dendrites like extend into the rock itself there. Doesn't make sense. If so. Very cool shallogram. Fracture right there, right to there, right to it, right exactly there. And this may be relating to these outlets. Like these drained this way, this one drained more across that way too. Another angle, we can really see how these are parallel. Right there and this. Also maybe this. Relatively related, like it's just got cross currents. And teeth randomly along this way, like they're not in the right direction, but they connect over this way. And seemingly maybe down that way too, pointing generally to this point. Another one stacked. This one, notice chakra is right at this boundary. Chakra is at basically the center of this one. Then we can see down here, like parts of a structure that doesn't go out all the way. And if we go up here where this boundary is pretty close to where this one is, and then like it's more if we pick the center, more like over here, the center of this whole lobe is a little further over. That actually aligns with where this one is. And then down here perhaps aligns with like the point where this starts to bend in. On the top side especially, right there. So, is this a coincidence? It's always a coincidence. It's always a coincidence when we invoke coincidence, always. Another one, this one's interesting. Like, what's going on in here? It didn't really remove the material that much, it just differentiated it, I guess. And it's still there and formed this like blob over here. Also, this chakra seems to be pointing in that axis, maybe. We'll see. This one also has the divides in the rock, the cracks that are boop, 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 step by step. This one goes to that point. This one maybe goes to the chakra, although maybe it's there. This one goes to this edge. So there's probably relationships of that nature as we go forward. This also has like along the plane and a protrusion that then goes out that way. The chakras might be there. I don't know. It's hard to say what's going on in there. I don't think the images actually show in there. This really straight flat line up here that doesn't actually follow the contours of the shell, but connects into this stuff over here, that connects over to here, that connects through here. Like, it's not, how many coincidences do we say, alright, we don't know what we're talking about? This side's got lots of teeth. This side is perfectly rounded. You know, time plus erosion and coincidence can do pretty much anything. Anything your heart desires. We got these bands going across this way. Imagine a current wrapping around the stone. And on this face, we see these like bands. They're not quite as defined, but they're also very more defined than the rest of the rock. So this is probably related to this, almost like a current wrapping around it and squeezing and creating this like bend in the rock, as well as in causing currents to flow in this way through these cracks and causing current to then flow through the what would become the ammonite shape, and then differentiating here in a weird way, probably because it's squeezing the rock, so it's like ballooning this side and squeezing this side, so this side gets more bendy, like a current tries to go a certain way, but it gets more wavy, where over here it's more able to go straight because of the ballooning of the rock maybe, but it also offers space for another ammonite to form over here in this like bulge. This chakra is just pretty interesting, and then it's got chambers here, like kind of not cohesive, but chambers. We also see this interesting bend there. This leads over to that, which leads to this, the bend in the rock. There's also some subtle ammonite looking things going on there, another chamber-esque looking thing, maybe some other ammonite beginnings here. This curve comes off the end, off the far end of this, where this interestingly stops around the far end. This maybe there's the far end, but stop, like the opening stops there, but the opening actually really is double that, so over here too. But it's got this like straight line across that then connects down, like between energy levels through these like short circuit type things that then are creating chambers. Some little structure there. Little teeth there that are kind of reminiscent of this one. Like off of the teeth, these little teeth, the lobes. It kind of gives me that feeling, these lobes off of the teeth, like we see little teeth in there. Right there, right there, right there, maybe right there and there. But then off of it are these lobes, which maybe had they had more like oomph, could have connected across to this and created more chambers, but it didn't, so it's just these little lobes that go out and back. Like, why does this wrap around and go to this? Is this the ammonite? Nonsense. Another one with chakras here, with a lobe over here, with below that lobe this thing. And also, mind you, this chakra continues down here, so this is really like part of this chakra system going down here. Also up here, this is like, even though it's got this thing, it's kind of internal to the overall structure. And then below it though is this. This really looks like another chakra going on that's related to like a certain energy point. Also notice here aligns with this end. This is like the point that I frequently talk about with like regard to Damned Arcoon, for instance, this thing, where there's an ammonite shape, and then it has a cross current here. Like, this is standard, just standard. That's why there's these energetic balance points, because there's a cross current coming through certain energetic points, and here it created like a chakra system off of the ammonite, but within the ammonite. Okay, another. This one's got teeth connecting. Here's a presumably an opening, like this one is, yeah, opening, 2 chakras, opening. This is from Rudraksh Guru. This one was from Shiva Lingam shop on Amazon. This one from Quetzalcoatl on Amazon. KRE again, KRE again, KRE again. Okay. I just want to make sure I at least stated where they're coming from. They're all up here also. The A. I put it in the A's if I remember. But chakras over here that then have teeth system connecting the supposed ammonite along the teeth to some other structure over here, and then along there is an opening with chakras. Some other thing going on here that interestingly, like around this chakra, bends away and even goes up towards here and has like something going on there, like it splits to like different energy rungs. So there's that chakra going across. We see clear teeth type things. Ammonite here. Honestly, this disproves, because of the teeth along this that then connect to an ammonite. Like they're just not fossils. I can't wait for people to realize the truth. It even connects like right at the edge of this one. Goes across over there to the center of the chakra. Like this triangle demonstrates an energetic connection between the chakra and the far end over here and this that demonstrates they're related. Fossils wouldn't do that. Also, there's kind of a straight line here I can vaguely see that maybe is related to this boundary. I don't know. Or maybe over here, even like this one. That looks like it might be in line with there. I don't know. This also looks to have 2 sides, like teeth and then more teeth over there, but like weirdly shaped because it just didn't form an ammonite. It just began to etch it in the same way because the same process was at play. We also see little teeth in there, maybe. This maybe continues across even somewhat. The way that is reminds me of pieces of ammonite. Probably, nope. Where do I have it? Drilled through. Nope. Sliced. Kind of like this. That's not the one I was looking for. Yeah, now I remember what I was looking for. Let's just go to shallograms. I think it's pretty low in the list. Might have passed it even. There it is. There it is, this one. Reminds me of this, the way this is. Here. With these cross type things going, maybe. Very etched and then runs into resistance and bends this way, I guess. Like this right here. Lots of little pores. Lots of little pores. This over here at the very end of this is another structure, almost like a wall. Like if a spiral's forming and the current runs into something that effectively behaves like a wall, then the spiral would limit itself to that like region. Does that kind of make sense? Also, all these little etches, like that's incredible. These things. Inexplicable for fossilization. I call bullshit yet again. And down here, it's not cohesive. Like it's forming segments, but this portion especially is very much just like the Matrix. Also, it looks like this region kind of has like a roundedness to it, almost like it might have tried to continue, but just didn't have the capacity to shape the rest of it. Maybe because this thing was like preventing free flow between. Almost like it spawned, like this current was wrapping, going in and then pushing current out and wrapping out this way. And then it ran into this, but it still was wrapping, so it went through like over here and went this way and affected this region of the rock. But like drained through that way in a weird way that doesn't make any damn sense for ammonites. Also just this, like, why is it doing that? Come on, guys. We should have known from the beginning when we saw, like, ammonites filled with crystals. This can't happen except for by some process transporting it, and if it's transporting it, then it's concentrating it, and if it's concentrating it, it's probably just shaping the whole damn thing. Why's it gotta be two processes? First there's a shell, and then there's a current. No, it's just there's a current, the end. Okay, so this one's got really smooth here. We can see a little internal. What I like about this one is it's got the little internal ammonite, and then on its back it's got like a quarter, maybe a third, I don't know, quarter-ish of an ammonite segment. Turn rotation, and then on its back is another one. Pretty cool. And just the colors in here, this one's just cool. There's some lines etched in over there. This region is very much like a gateway looking thing, a doorway. Like it looks like an arched doorway. It's pretty interesting. Seemingly the current was just flowing and just smoothly etched the surface at certain points, and then went down into the surface as well to create this bend, flow to top this. As well as this bend is relatively close to where this is. That's pretty interesting. And this, where it stops having an ammonite shape, is in line with the beginning of this. That's interesting. There's a little circle there, almost like another node. Like along this pathway too. Where the like interaction happens, also assuming the current, in my interpretation, I was kind of thinking it was going left to right here, and maybe it runs into resistance here. This black region is caused to form, and this little disc region then is an outcome of this thing forming. Different one. This one just has really defined. This thing over here is really defined, and then it's got this protruding dendritic structure off of it, where over here it's got one of those two kind of the fill spots, but not the dendrites. Down here we can see that this goes this way, probably goes down this way generally as well. So this region is kind of opposite to this one. It's shaped a little different. It's more of like a mound. We do see a dendritic structure going through it that got eroded, I guess. Teeth are a little abnormal shaped on the outside. More reasonable what we can see in here, but at the far end over here where it bends up is this thing, and then at the middle is this thing, and then at the end here, I guess, is whatever's going on there. Also, there's something going up that way, and that way, and maybe that way. Also from KRE. And again, at the end here, along this, we see this thing and this thing. And then this above it and below it, some spec type stuff going on, some oddities. And then if we look over here, there's another one of those. Down here, there's kind of two there as well, with something in the middle. Up here, maybe there's some. So this whole thing kind of has that happening. Which makes me think of this chunk here. This portion is the dendrite. Let's find it. Good angle. Here we go. Dendrite, and then this thing. Kind of makes me think of this. Which I then related to this structure here. So maybe it has like cross things going sideways. It looks kind of like that, it's just not formed. Different angle, pretty thin looking here. Thin looking here. Straight line back there with some teeth there. Tiny teeth up here. Tiny teeth up here. That actually connect around this way. Teeth this way and this way. Definitely not fossils. It's just, it is what it is. I look forward to this being discussed by science. I do. The day we see reason, it will be a good day. This one, like we can see the lobe as a whole. Like it's got a lobe on both sides. This one's abnormally shaped. That's interesting. With the abnormality, like along the center plane, right there is where up here it's more like trying to go further, but down here it doesn't seem to have done it, or didn't erode the layer atop it to really expose the full roundedness of it. Then over here, opposite this way, let's go across this way. There. The top half is relatively normal, and the bottom half, just like over here, is a little anomalous. This bottom half, the teeth don't actually connect. They go up this way, kind of arbitrarily. Look how big this is. Look how big that tooth is. And it's not, they're not, I'm not calling them teeth like these are little teeth right here. They're these things that are really formed from the spine structures this way from the chakra that then at this boundary form teeth. And sometimes it's just ultimately formed from currents interacting that are then like going in opposite directions, and by interacting in opposite directions they cause like an up-down motion while flowing along the surface of the rock, which then leads to etching into the rock. So it doesn't even necessarily need the ammonite shape, it's just that's an outcome. Like when the currents interact, they produce the teeth, and sometimes that gets into the rock enough to really induce a full-blown ammonite shape. But other times it just produces, like in that instance here, where there's just these random teeth up here that don't really have a good explanation fossilization wise. Like there would have to be an ammonite in there, which maybe there is, like to a degree, but it hasn't etched it away. So it's probably like subtle, like kind of like this one, how this is, how it's not really fully formed and coalesced into a like concrete structure. It's more abstract. I think a Picasso. And this goes up. So that's this face, I guess. Really looking at it from a different angle. Has this like indentation from the top here to this top, this region is this indentation like spot here, which then reaches back here and goes that way. We can kind of see the ammonite shape there going back into it with the ribs across there, and like some dendritic structure etched into the surface. Similar to how this happens, it does it here. It does it under so much pressure that the current doesn't just go straight, it bends and weaves and occupies more space per like a distance, like by going up down up down up down up down up down up down instead of just straight. It goes much further and is able to relieve the pressure, and that's basically high pressure induced. It creates dendritic structures, whereas teeth are still high pressure, just not as high of pressure. Like this is where extreme conditions really happen around the ammonite when it's doing that. For the current, where it's caused to bend and bend and bend and like weave. Not even sure this is the same face we were looking at. It's not this face. This must be a different face. We don't see those chunks. Goes out to a very far tip there. Anomalous shape here. It kind of goes this way, so why isn't it wrapping more around that way? Then it's got this little circle there, this thing going on here, this thing here, some teeth up that way. From the center here, we can see this center line goes up a little bit here, and then across, follow it down, and voila, there we are. And then follow it across and go up instead. Possibly across and then this way even. This is from Try Deva Blessings also. This one. Notice it's got something going on over there. Not many pictures of it, unfortunately. That's what we got. It's this face, and then images from the top and the bottom. Something bulgy going on there with a little sharp bend. Little bend, sharp, a little smoother bend. And then if we look across, it almost like right here to here, it almost looks like a band that, like, big old band across. Also, these probably point to current flows going certain ways. That generally has, like, where it's white, it's in white, it's got a little bit darker in the middle here. That looks like it points generally there. And then, again, points at that one down there. Like there's a relationship. Stuff going down this way, it didn't etch as much some reason because of the ammonite, where stuff going off to the side it was more etched on the surface. I don't know exactly why. Maybe because it isn't able to relieve pressure as easily on the top face on these regions as where it can drain into this ammonite or get pulled into. Not sure why I wouldn't show quite the signs, I guess. I don't know. This one, another one that's just sliced at different angles, like not at, or at different points, the same angle, different layers. A slice, right below it another slice, right above it another slice. Between those, this little slice there. And up here a slice, all relatively parallel considering it's a rounded rock. Some teeth over here, which also, if we look at it, the teeth look like they go back to this slice. There's a weird little square looking thing there. Not only do they go back to the slice, they go to a point in the slice that kind of like breaks right there, where it's not continuous. Like over here, there's a break. There's a break. It's not just a single slice. Over here is relatively continuous. So these teeth are related to that point. They also, like this line, maybe like this region in between is influenced by whatever's going on between these two. So that stretch is more subtle, and then after that it's more able to form teeth. Then an ammonite shape that is relatively parallel to these. As not just that, but also with this going up to it, maybe. I don't know if we get a head-on image of it to really compare where the chakra is compared to this fracture line. Teeth over here that relatively go that way, but also maybe relate this way. A boundary also to where this teeth kind of stop forming. We do see some subtlety that way, but some bends. Just crossing of the currents here. These cross each other twice. Alan Karshive on Amazon. What's interesting, right below this chakra is this like relatively ammonite-esque. Like sometimes ammonites have windows in that shape thing that's quite centered below the chakras. And then just next to it is a smaller one. That's interesting. Above it also, maybe, where the point between them, right along this line, is pretty centered on the chakra. Maybe a little off center. Maybe this is centered on the chakra. And this is some secondary energy level that then led to this boundary. Just upside down. See a straight line in that one, which points right at the very tip of that where the chakra meets like the bend. Maybe even points across to that one. Some little teeth windows etched in the top for some reason. Slash bottom, I'm not sure. Relatively uniform looking thing in terms of top and bottom. And then the back side of it is this. So around the back. So if we pay attention here, this side ends, this side continues. So the side that continues goes around this way, I believe, where it shows dendrites, but then it's got this weird thing with some dendrites in there, but like weirdly reaching to the actual edge where there's these teeth, actual teeth within here, like there, that relate to these dendrites, and then the teeth over here like go that way, like they go that way, but they also branch off and continue in more of like a straight path this way. And it even starts out small, has a little gap there, and gets wider and wider, almost like a rattlesnake tail. Like nearer to the body, it's not doing it as much, but further away, it's getting more able to create these ripples and widen a gap through. And then I guess it goes around this way, bends over here, tries to go back over here, just didn't have the capacity to for some reason to really form like a continuous tooth structure around this ammonite. And then influences over here in weird ways. Like what coupled with this thing and that and all these little specks. I know I've said it many times, I'm gonna say it again. They're not ammonite. They're not fossils. They're not fossils. Yeah, they're ammonites. That's just the word we call it. It doesn't mean that by calling it an ammonite that they're biological. That's just the term we've arrived at. Ammonites are not fossils. They are current induced, and that's another Shallogram episode. So you guys, peace.